And hello world, it is Sunday, January the 29th, and it's once again time for a bit of Faffin About, the only gaming podcast on the internet where I want to have some relevant joke about Welcome to the Family thanks to Resi7, but I got a whole lot of nothing right now. And YouTube is already not functioning to pick up the stream data. Alright, we're in there. As always, I am your host, Danaracha, and as always, joining me again, except for when he's not here, which has been never so far. It's definitely Matt from Player.me. Hi. I'm doing great this morning.
You sound great, because apparently you switched from energy drink to coffee, and it seems to work a lot better.
Well, not so much, because I want to save the liquid jet fuel to sink into my veins when it's needed.
Well, isn't it really needed right now? Are you trying to disappoint me and your devout fans?
I have one fan sitting on my desk behind me that needs a severe dusting. Besides that, I don't know of any others.
Alright, so, well, despite the nothingness apparently going on in your brain right now, as you mentioned earlier, we hopefully both played games this past week, didn't we? Well, yeah, I did.
We have been known to play video games every now and then. That's a thing we are one to do.
Mind blown. Sorry.
Before we get into our usual chit chat of what we've been playing, I wanted to say up front that for those of you who follow through the entirety of these episodes, we tend to do our kind of yibber yabber at the start and what we've been playing, recent news items. We jump into our main topic, and then we get to our usual end of the show wrap up, where we would usually hold a Q&A. However, we haven't had any for, I think, since the dinosaurs have been stomping about. So for those of you watching from the archives or on YouTube, for God's sakes, why don't you send in a Q so that we may A. You can do so in the comment sections of whichever place you're looking from, or send it to me through Twitter or Tumblr, the latter of those if you wish to do so in any anonymous manner.
Or please make a joke about that comment, so please Q so we can A. I need a bad joke about this. There's got to be a bad joke out there for this.
Your mind is just going to the gutter while I'm over here just trying to be a great big fancy host boy, and I clearly messed that up already.
Well, the difference is you have a fan, I don't.
Yeah, the joke is that it's a stationary object that actually blows wind.
No, that's not good. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Someone needs to go on a date, I reckon.
I'm so lonely. Yeah. Anyway, before I start crying, let me just mention what I played this past week, which was, according to our main topic today, again, quite a bit more of League of Legends, which apparently some people other than myself still hate enough to rage quit on me, while I'm just saying that, like, why are you playing a game you don't want to play? Why are you doing this to yourself? And other than that, let me think. Yeah, I played the great game Progress Quest by resetting my computer since there was a bug with my USB ports. So, yay. And yeah, other than that, I started playing Deus Ex this morning, the first one, the original Deus Ex, and I gotta say already, it feels good to be in the PC Master Race. Because, well, the game looks like shit, let's be honest. If you look at a screenshot of this today, you're like, yeah, this is probably how cavemen tried 3D.
But you have to remember the important aspect of the original Deus Ex. You know what that is?
Well, as far as I am told, an incredibly in-depth system and story and RPG elements.
JC, it's a bomb. A bomb!
Hey, what? I spoiling me, but no, I started today. I didn't even get past the first
You
mission
don't
yet.
even know the hot memes about Deus Ex. Effing get on my
Actually, I
level.
know that. Yeah, I am not an internet citizen apparently. I just got kicked out if I ever was. Yeah. So anyway, first this X does look like shit, but at the same time, I like usually when I start the game after watching the intro sequence, which for some reason graphically kind of reminded me of the old Command and Conquers, probably because they look pretty much the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I checked the options since I need to rebind control sometime due to the way I use my keyboard and mouse. And if you have a point where you can where there are already F keys assigned to stuff, and feel like half the keyboard and everything else too, and you switch to numpad controls, you know you're playing a PC Master Race game right there. Similar to the old System Shocks, if I recall right, who also had like billions of controls.
Well, for me, there's a part of my brain that can't send itself back in time to put into the mindset of how games used to be in terms of their design and controls. So I can't go back and play some of the original Dungeon Siege games, for example, because they feel like absolute archaic pieces of relics that are so long in the tooth that they make a capybara shameful. So, a Deus Ex, the original one, was another instance of mine where I can't really put myself back into when that game first came out to really be able to enjoy it. But at least the writing and the storytelling components of it I can appreciate from a spectator angle. Namely because there wasn't a whole lot of games that touched upon the whole the government is kind of shitty, fam.
Yeah, and wasn't it also companies? As I said, I only got to the first mission and I ended because I failed miserably. It was really depressing to see. But what I've seen so far, also with the tutorial, which does still exist in some cases, it's just not pretty much the first mission where there are helpful hints popping up in floating in the air. And there is something great about a game where you have, I think, 12 movement bindings, 10 or 12 movement bindings with, of course, walking forward, backward, right, and left, then turning, then looking, like leaning left and right to look over walls, and crouching and sprinting and jumping, and it's annoying to control, and it probably will take me at least 10 hours to get used to the system. But at the same time, I can appreciate that feeling of superiority because I can already say like this will never get a port. Just like wait, did Dark Souls get a? Yeah, Dark Souls was controller. Never mind.
Yeah.
Let me think. Yeah, I forgot about that for a second. Let's see, were there any other games that will probably never be console ported because you need a manual for the buttons and the secondary controller you would probably need to bring with that and the keyboard.
I was gonna say Arma came to mind right away, but I want to
Yeah,
say
Arma.
I want to say there was something controller or console related rather to it some time ago, but even for a game like, let's say, Elite Dangerous that has so many buttons just to dock your ship onto a bloody spaceport, they are smart enough to allow a combination of control schemes. Like, you can use your controller to do your flight in combat, but then use your keyboard if you want to make use of your ship functions or finer details when you're trying to navigate menus or things like that. PlanetSide 2 allowed for a similar thing where there are some people who are so into the game that they actually will get a flight stick solely for their vehicle piloting and then switch to the keyboard and mouse when they're on foot as infantry. So you don't need to exactly go to consoles to really overcome the whole complicated controls issue. It's just a conjunction of both if you don't want to learn how to be a keyboard warrior.
Keyboard warrior, best warrior, to be honest. But yeah, that was the main thing I noticed up until now, and the fact that while there are only like a handful of skills, like I would guess 12 to 14 skills, I can't recall right now, you still have to, the tutorial took me, I think, way over an hour to learn those basic techniques, and I managed to drown myself several times and kill myself in the tutorial. And yeah, there was a time where gaming was hard and only for the obsessive psychotics.
Yeah, that's more a testament to Deus Ex being a much larger focus on stealth and espionage rather than pure combat. Because the combat in the Deus Ex games is pretty trash. And then, just like any good game design, they drill into your head you have to be stealthy, but then they have forced boss fights where you have to go toe-to-toe with enemies. Because because you have to have like a shoot gun bang action scene at some point. Otherwise, how are you going to? It has guns. You have to use the guns. No guns though.
The guns will be sad if you let them go to waste. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was. And
speaking of guns, that's an excellent segue into what I've been playing here lately. Just over I think it was on Saturday, they had released a new update for Enter the Gungeon. A free one that added a whole slew of new rooms, new items, new weapons, apparently new NPCs to interact with that I don't think I've encountered just yet. And it's basically, they call it the supply drop update, which just adds a whole bunch of new fun stuff to encounter, including some enemies and a new boss who sucks. But supposedly they're going to be releasing actual DLC down the road for the game to give more content to those who can apparently beat the game 100% and back twice over while blindfolded. Which is the issue of contempt I'm starting to have with Gungeon, is that I did a coverage video on it a long time ago at youtube.com/downeratcha where I said that I was pretty fond of the game, even though it suffered greatly from roguelike luck, which is my theory that some roguelikes are built in such a way that if you have, it doesn't matter if you have the run, if you can just find the right combinations of items or weaponry or whatnot to trivialize your obstacles or enemies, it really doesn't matter if you have the skill to put into it. I noticed that with a game like Crypt of the Necrodancer, where once you get a certain arsenal under your belt, you would have to try pretty hard to get yourself killed. Gungeon, on the other hand, relies on this so much, in that if you don't get anything good on the first floor, you might as well just reset your run right there. The other issue is the absolute ludicrous requirements for getting the true ending for the characters, because you would have to go through each floor and get a special component to use in the gun that can kill time, which is the way you complete a character's final mission or whatnot and get a 100% completion rate for them. Unless I have something horribly wrong about this, you have to go through an entire run, beat the dungeon in normal mode, with all those components in tow. The issue here is that one of those components has a very ridiculous price tag attached to it, which means that's a lot of resources you can't purchase, like keys for chests, or extra armor, or health, or blanks, which clear the screen of bullets. And I'm starting to kind of hate the game, because there's so much reliance on lucky drops that I've gotten pretty okay at the game, namely in making use of cover and the dodge roll that has complete invincibility for a few frames. But the matter is that, like I say, if you go through the first floor and you can't get a single gun out of the chests, and you just get some passive items that don't really give you much benefit, you are pretty much held at gunpoint to restart, because you'll have damn near nothing to work with on the second floor, because your starter weapon does not scale in damage. So as the enemies get more resilient, your gun's going to do less and less. Never mind against bosses that apparently you also have to defeat without taking a single scratch of damage for another true ending aspect, which, for the one boss that is just basically a wall that dispenses bullets, I call absolute horseshit on the matter.
Well, don't discriminate against horses, okay? Yeah, we are all friends here, but yeah, I get the reasoning. Isn't that? I believe it's also kind of similar in Binding of Isaac, though it is not as reliant. Apparently, my brother has been playing it quite a bit and tried to convince me to get into it. But yeah, I did not, because I do not have the time, even though I really, really would like to. But yeah, like there are many roguelikes these days where it's just really, really the question of what you get.
Well,
Or,
it was funny that you mentioned Binding of Isaac, because one of my viewers, Ledslinger, he, I might be paraphrasing pretty hard here because that stream was a while ago, but he said that he didn't know why people held Binding of Isaac in such high regard, because apparently that game suffers even greater from roguelike luck, where Gungeon can use has a lot more requirements on player input through skill, because it's still a bullet hell game to a certain degree, and those who have played shmups will likely find themselves with an advantage in that game from that mentality you have to put into to avoid just absolute hordes of red rounds flying your way.
oh yeah, if you mention Wall of Bullets, I just remembered another game I've been playing, which I forgot to mention, because if you ever need a game where you can get really obsessive about, it's Super Hexagon, because I've played like at least 2 hours of that again. Not the brightest point of my life. As for what Super Hexagon is, think of a simple OpenGL application, which I only know because I'm bored enough to recognize it while playing. You have only two controls, left and right, which you can pretty much bind to any two keys. It's really irrelevant. And you are in the middle of the screen, you need to dodge walls coming from the outside. And the walls are defined in a hexagonal shape. So you are pretty much on one of the edges of a hexagon, and if you would extend those outwards on each of those sides, one side can always be a wall pretty much. And there's always a way to get further, but since it's getting faster and faster, and the controls also feel like they're getting faster, while the I'm not even sure what genre it is. Is it electro? I think it's hardcore electro. Just keeps getting pushier, and then the screen starts flickering, and yeah. Fun game, and it makes you really, really want to beat it, but yeah, not going to happen. At least not for me yet.
I also have Super Hexagon, and the issue I have with it is that there's something about the visuals that plays with my brain, that I can see what's happening, and I know how to make the inputs to avoid smashing my idiot face into a wall. It's just a matter of there's so much like going on with the visuals that my brain's trying to process it, and it is lagging as it does. I don't know what it is. It's like it's like people you'd see that there's an opening right there that you can go for, and you'd be tearing your hair out and screaming when they don't go for it. But once you actually start playing that game, it's not as easy as it looks. And
pretty much, yeah.
like there's certain patterns that are very easy to get through eventually. Once you have them memorized, you can kind of sort of expect to see what's happening. But yeah, Super Hexagon is a dick.
Yeah, it's a dick, but it's actually really concerningly addictive, in my opinion. It's like the Flappy Bird conundrum. It's a super simple game, but you just fail over and over, and it just makes you want to beat it more. And while I actually got in the first level to almost the 1 minute mark that you need to reach, I have a friend who actually really got obsessed about that because he got it during holidays, and that in my friend list that equates to I'm pretty much going to beat this game. And yeah, he has I think over 300 seconds in the first level.
Jesus.
5 minutes, and I have no clue how he did that. I could not focus that long, not in my lifetime. And yeah, he has also beaten every level, but he's an Ozo player. That's pretty much the summarize. It's just probably muscle memory for him.
Yeah, reaction speed. Yeah, that'll go miles there.
Yeah, I just try to remember. He actually did a reaction speed test against me once, and I think I was around 400 milliseconds, which is apparently really slow. And he was like around 170 or something, 160. I can't really remember the numbers, but there was a huge difference, which just was real hilarious. Because if you would meet us in the real world, this mythical land where people actually have faces, and not more than one, only one, you would see that I'm about 25% taller than him. And so we pretty much said, yeah, probably half the difference there is the length of the nerves between my brain and my hand. And I'm just going to blame that now every time I have to show of a reaction speed, and I need to justify myself.
Thanks for birthing me with slow reaction speed, Mom. Gosh.
Yeah, why you do this? Or I could just implant wires in my nerves, but I don't think medicine does that yet. No. Yeah. Anyway, so what happened? I think Resident Evil came out according to me looking at the player feeds this week. It was like, yeah, Resident Evil 7. I noticed. Thank you.
Yeah,
the
new IP that is being disguised as a Resi game. So, when I was talking about the demo in previous episodes, I was very skeptical of the whole thing because it looked PT as fuck. And that trend has certainly continued in the full game with what I've seen so far. The issue, however, is that when I say that Phantom Pain from Metal Gear Solid should have been its own IP and it would have been better, I figure the same case should have been done for Resident Evil 7, because I have not read the article about it, but a PC Gamer writer did do an analysis of somehow it is connected to the rest of the series. However, anytime somebody is trying to do the Dark Souls methodology of digging for lore, chances are they're full of their own shit. But I have clearly been wrong about my skepticism of the game, because it has been reviewed glowingly. I think Polygon gave it in the upper 90s. PC Gamer has a score of 90 out of 100. It's very positive at 91%, I think, of users on Steam. So, yeah, it's been doing super well. When I figured it would just be going... trying to go for spooky haunted house nonsense, but no. Turns out the Baker family is pretty freaky for humans, quote unquote.
Okay, then I will take your word from it, as I will probably never play horror games.
I thought about I actually
Too
thought
close to home.
about buying it to try doing on the stream with face camera and all that stuff, and then I noticed some of the stuff that goes on, namely with like when you're trying to evade. In the earlier sections of the game, Jack, the patriarch of the family, you're trying to evade. When he chases you and he gets within melee range, he won't just smack you in the back of the head. He'll actually throw his arms around the camera, ergo Ethan's eyes, and spin him around. I can only imagine how absolutely frightening that would be in VR, which apparently has been making a lot of players ill, at least for the console users, last I heard, but there's a lot of pretty horrifying tricks, like with, enemies like putting their hands around the camera to spin you around. And in one instance, Ethan, the protagonist, gets his leg severed, and one of the enemies, he gets his leg severed, and he can actually crawl towards his leg and pick it up as an inventory item.
Okay, then. Yeah, let's just remember what we said a couple podcasts ago about gore in video games. Sometimes it can be delighting. That probably isn't the case in this point.
Which it leads into an interesting thing. It makes me skeptical because the same enemy, Jack, puts down a med jar that Ethan can use to save himself, which is a bizarre character action. But it leads into an interesting tutorial segment because, as Ethan is bleeding out horribly, he takes this medical jar and he puts his foot back on the stump of his leg, and he pours this liquid all over it, which then repairs the tissue and reattaches his leg. So you get to learn as the player that, okay, the medical items in this game can save the player character from surely life-threatening injuries. Which I thought was a pretty interesting direction, because it's not just, oh, hey, here's a game over, a delayed game over. Here's actually, this is what these items do. Now you know that they're very important. Have fun.
Yeah. Now you know that they're very important. Go get a lot of them because you're going to die a lot. That's at least what I get from that. Honestly, though, I personally, from what I've seen both in screenshots, videos, streams from Resident Evil up until now, is I am personally already way too desensitized to actually get appalled by it. And the only thing that really bothers me with that is still the fact that, it's a first-person camera. If it would be, for example, in third person, you could see what's going on, for example, in the back of you, I would be significantly less frightened by it. But that's another story. So, but from the graphics at least, which I'm kind of a sucker about in the way that I know how much work went into them normally, is as fucked up as it looks, it is beautiful.
Yeah, it looks so good that like when in one point I saw in another bit of video where the Jack runs up to the player character, and half of his head had been caved in with his brain visible, and he's talking like everything's just absolutely fine, and it just looks so absolutely nar that it can be understandable why some players are getting ill, not just from the motion blur or VR tech, which, by God, how fucked up are the nightmares for those who play that in VR? I can't.
Experience, I can say, pretty much you get sleepless and then you pass out after some time.
Like there's one early death that you can take where Ethan gets a chainsaw in his tum-tum, and the camera is pointed down as it happens while he's being assaulted with the chainsaw. And it goes on for a while. This animation does not go quickly, so it's like Yeah, I like when we talked about in the last episode with me getting vertigo and ill from the tall heights in Dying Light. I'm pretty sure I would whip the VR headset halfway across the room if I looked down and then my digital self was getting cut into twain.
Hey, yeah, I am personally, as I said, about the gore aspect, a lot more easygoing, but about the well, horror bit in the story is that's more tricky for me. At least I like the scary parts. The gore isn't really an issue for me, though I can see how some people cannot take that as well. Would probably be the best way of describing it. And I can also imagine my processor not taken very well if I would ever put that into my computer, because it would pretty much just go into a nuclear fission state, just burn through my laptop. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Yeah. Anyway, you just sent me 2 hours ago, I believe, another really interesting news story, which I guess we're going to cover, right? This
Yeah, I had sent you the stuff about the early ninja debacle sometime last week, which I think that could be its own show topic to follow up on an earlier episode regarding early access. But yeah, just recently via a post from Polygon, headline: GDC travel plans rather snared by anti-Muslim immigration order. So there will be those some people wishing to attend the Game Developers Conference that will not be able to do so because of the recent administrative changes to those trying to immigrate legally, mind you, or not even immigrate, let alone just try to visit the place.
Yeah, like that's already immigration policies is something I will never get my head around, as I've been traveling most of my life, using the fact that I have a visa that gets me in a good amount of countries with not a lot of paperwork normally, and then just going in the country where that's not the case, looking on the requirements and thinking, do you want me to send a scrapbook to you, or do I just give you all the data the NSA ever collected on me? Is that quicker? Because that's stupid. And like, in my opinion, immigration policies is something we should probably not touch on in this podcast, but Jesus, guys, get along already.
It's more so the matter that these people wanting to attend GDC just to talk about video games and the ones they're making are being denied because of a cheese Cheeto gremlin. It's like, never mind the fact that if they had some sort of dark mark on their records or whatever, or there had been some kind of crime or whatnot, them being allowed and disallowed entry would make some semblance of fragmented sense. But just the fact of their origin or race is being denied the ability to attend the conference is, yeah. Yeah, the worst part about it is that, according to the news article, the GDC, a chapter of the people trying to attend from Iran, they're being called as an emerging group to expand upon the game developing scene, which, you know, was a recent thing being brought up. Which I've got to look up who made Dread Out. Because they were from a very small nation, I believe, that weren't typically known for making games at all, if ever, which I'm trying to find right now. Yeah, from Indonesia, developer Digital Happiness, they were called, which was kind of a big deal because the most developers we know of come from, you know, America or Europe or Japan, but never a lot of these smaller nations that aren't entirely known for their ability to produce anything on the game scene.
Yeah, that's actually something that I thought immediately when reading that post, because I actually looked 2 years ago. I looked into what it would take for me to go to the GDC, because that was the time when the new OpenGL system, well, the next generation OpenGL Vulkan was going to be released. It was going to be displayed on the GDC, and I was super hyped about it. And the cost for a ticket for the whole GDC time, if I remember right, was around $1,500. In addition to the flight costs and the visa costs that are always a matter too. So, in other words, the people who would go there, they are well off, or they have significant benefits from a company. So it would not even make sense for them to commit any acts that might be unbeneficial for them. It will only destroy diversity in the games industry, which, in my opinion, personally, is completely terrible. Because honestly, like you mentioned with Indonesia, like 5 years back, I would have never thought that, let's say, in Romania or in Poland, in South Poland, there would have been any games made. I've been taught a lot better these days with both Factorio, Painkiller, and also a couple other ones. And they're like these game studios who make brilliant work, but you just never hear of them until they actually release something, and it's amazing. I know I'm a niche group with Factorio. Leave me alone. Yeah, but that's really scary, because I also remember checking on the PowerPoint presentations from the last 2 years of GDC, and what you see there is pretty much also game developers sharing their knowledge in technology. And honestly, were some game studios on the list who I never heard of, and you look at what they do, and this is just pretty much the next generation of graphics they give there, which is always really amazing to see. For example, there was a long way back, and I'm not sure if that happened on GDC, there was pretty much the level of what I believe Crytek did with screen space ambient occlusion with Crysis 1. When they were pretty like, look, we can do this shadowing system in real time, and it looks amazing. And this is how we do it. And this has been going on for quite some while. Like with research, actually, it's the important part of every industry for the people who know what the hell they are doing there and are good at it to talk to each other, because then it's just going to get better. A lot better. Yeah, I'm personally extremely that gets really personal to me, that topic, because this is like a matter that pisses me off so much. Yeah, GDC, good stuff, better than E3 by ways, by long ways. And sometimes you see people like Gabe Newell standing on podiums, which actually might be entertaining.
Yeah, to further cement that good guy GDC, those affected by the immigration ban are getting their attendance fees refunded, according to a tweet of theirs on yesterday in the evening. But yeah, like you say, it's the matter that we can't have some people attending the event to share what they know or to interact with one another. And even if it's just a matter of someone like creating the tiniest of ideas out of the whole thing, the fact that they can't be there to have their own presence in game development because of bullshit administrative jargon is pretty much as bullshit as a case as you can get. Recently, that news post had been updated. Polygon reached out to people with relation to the GDC, and they essentially agree that this is some nonsense, fam. They just want to they want to see these people attending the event, and We'll see how exactly this plays out, if they will be able to take part or not. Have to do so via long range.
Yeah, and otherwise, I could actually see stuff like the GDC just shifting to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually be another really curious thing, because I remember before E3 is I believe now considered an open event where it's common for like the normal gamers to go there and have it, because if I remember right, it was pretty much a press event before that, a couple of years back, and therefore the Gamescom, which is in Cologne in Germany, was the biggest like gamer event, which with open attendance and reasonable prices. I mean, seriously, if you pay for the whole time of 4 days with 30 euros, it's fine. It's payable for once, which is always a matter to me. And of course, I wouldn't need to travel about a continent. But I could actually see them shifting somewhere in Europe, for example. I don't know where Blizzard is, for example, sitting in Paris, or Crytek is in Frankfurt. So that, or actually also to Cologne, because it's more central for many people who develop games besides the Americans. And I just think it would be really curious to see that such a major event in game development would just go against something governmental. It would be interesting to see, at least. If not, then, and yeah, I would not say it's beneficial or detrimental to the whole gaming as a whole, but it will certainly be influential whatever is going to happen after this now.
Mm-hmm. I'm certain this story is going to get further updates other than just a statement from the IGDA. So mayhaps there'll be a touch-up on this next week or the week later if any developments come of it.
Sounds good. So, main topic today is also, I guess, about internationality, somewhat, in a really, really weird way.
Well, it sure is, because when I went into StreamYard to... there it is. the title card fell off the display for a moment there. I went to drag down the little box that had the topic name in it. It just went off the screen. It's just like, screw you, man. I'm out of here.
Even the windows run from you now.
I am a good host, I swear. But yes, our main theme today of unhealthy competition. Holy jeez. Where do we start here?
Sucker Blood Rush B. No, sorry. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There are many, many games, as we have also mentioned while we are talking about community in gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many games with competitive ideas. Lately, the two... how is it called? The two different twins. I don't know the word. Battleborn and Overwatch. Before that, of course, Team Fortress, Dota, and every MOBA that came off of that ever. Paragon from Epic Games. I feel like I'm forgetting something. CSGO. Oh, well, it's Counter-Strike in general. Then, in some way, Call of Duty, though I don't think there is no global leaderboard, and that is there.
I don't believe so. Then again, I have not followed anything COD for the longest time.
Yeah, me neither. Well informed.
We're not missing out much.
Yeah, probably not. I gave up on that a long time ago.
So it was actually a strange thing that made me realize that competitiveness in gaming is actually a lot more detrimental and a negative thing than being, a piece of extra content. it's the matter of it was when I was playing Left 4 Dead on console many years ago, and I decided to try out the versus mode. And I absolutely despised every waking moment of this gameplay mode because it was essentially broke all the rules about the cooperative campaign. In Versus, you need to go through as fast as possible and absolutely hold no regard for your teammates, because the other players, all they have to do is with one fell time swoop, can absolutely disable everyone, because taking all control away from the player is such a good idea. Am I right, fam?
Yeah, awesome. We always love getting no control whatsoever by getting curb stormed.
So it every single game devolved into everyone just cursing and yelling at one another, just absolutely shitting on anyone who made the slightest of mistakes or tiniest of misplays, when this mode had no impact whatsoever on any player profile or stats or whatnot. And the concept of a friendly match was nowhere to be found in any way, shape, or form unless you specifically found communities who played video games for fun.
Yeah, and even then, that's not always guaranteed.
Yeah, somebody in the chat. Oh my god, Deathly. We actually have somebody viewing for once. That Super Megatron
Hi, big
brings...
shout out to you. Big shout out. We love you. Woo!
For now. In that he says, competition is pretty fun in some games, but you don't need it in every game made. And Left 4 Dead was one of the instances that I realized that competition kind of sucks when it's not needed. Like, instead of just having a throwaway PvP mode where everyone hates one another, they could have added...
Sorry.
Did somebody just shout an objection?
Yeah, pretty much.
What the hell was that?
My phone just did something. Please don't ask me what happened.
It sounded like Hatsune Miku was about ready to stomp the yard up in here.
Yeah, I don't have that on my phone, though.
I don't believe you.
Fuck you. My ears.
Your ears?
Anyway, continue. Yeah, pretty much. It's only bleeding now.
After I have doth crapped my pants in fright, what was it? What was I saying? Oh yeah, that the versus mode could have been put aside for just the sake of more content. In I mean, some games, yeah, that's the whole crux of their existence. Like, you know, some MOBAs do have a means of playing against, AI counterparts instead of going up against other players because, well, other players can sometimes be quite shit.
Hey, yeah.
But friendly competition in games has been something that I have not been able to see for the longest time. Like, even in Overwatch, which I'm getting ready to uninstall, that the quick match mode, which is just supposed to be quick games, where the only thing you can gain is a little bit extra experience to go towards loot crates, that people will still absolutely make it a terrible mess to try and slog through, because no one likes to lose. Anyone who says that is clearly out of their mind. But there's a difference in being able to accept a loss and then doing everything in your power to make sure it never happens, and goddamn if anyone else is responsible for it.
Yeah, like, on the other hand, there are like these games, for example, Counter-Strike, which is played competitively, and the professionals are actually friendly to one another despite the community. Just to point that out again. And also, I would think of StarCraft, because in my opinion, for strategy games, since you're taking out of some of the more direct action and have more time to think, it is actually more common to work well together, because in those strategy games, it's not always 1 versus 1. It can always be 2 versus 3 or something. and any combination is possible. And therefore you have at the same time normally the fact that you work with people together who you might have never met and play against people who could be, for all you know, people on the other world in Korea totally beating the shit out of you in a couple minutes. No, that is actually not racist, that's a proven fact. Anyway, yeah, so there is the point that you are not as invested in the direct action when you send people around the map and have still the time to better coordinate with people while not immediately hating them because they shot you in the balls.
Yeah, or anything else. I think the main issue is that in a lot of the games, it's not the matter of being potentially handed defeat. I think there's something of a strange personal offense being taken, because in a lot of these games, it's a matter of your avatar or player character is being murdered. That you are being digitally assassinated for the benefit of trying to go for victory. And I might be dipping into armchair psychologist territory, but it certainly feels like that when, going back to Left 4 Dead, is that when, you know, a teammate is cursing and yelling about a zombie making their insides on the outside, it's this violent, oppressive act that one player is putting onto another, where one party will be laughing, the other party will be not so keen on the matter.
I would rather say getting ready to shoot them in the fucking face.
Yeah, and then people speak in ways that would get them arrested in real life, that they're getting ready to absolutely to run someone over in Grand Theft Auto, or to shoot them in their big ugly face hole in Counter-Strike, or to or make jokes about raping or fucking or pillaging or whatever you'd have in any other game when they can't come to a certain metaphor immediately.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we ever develop a controller-shaped sniper, you can be sure that every war from then on will be decided by snipers.
Yep.
Let's think of that way. But in my opinion, actually, competition in games is healthy. It's by concept, it is a good idea. There are a lot of points where people failed to bring the way the community should act with each other to them. That is more often the case than not. But on the other hand, there are some points where it's actually incredibly entertaining to play with people you never met and just have a blast. For example, I lately had that in League, which I've been known to play for way too much time of my life. And it's just, there is pretty much also a quick game mode, which I guess can be compared to the Overwatch quick game mode. But you get a random hero or champion assigned. You need to play. And what happened then was, immediately after joining, people started using the global chat. And note, not for either welcoming to the game or insulting each other. No, actually for starting to role play, which was the most amazing thing I've seen in a long time. Just people who were not pre-made. I checked with everybody afterwards. No one was pre-made in this whole game, and immediately got on this role as like role playing with their champions that were randomly assigned. And even while we were completely stomped for the first half and then stomped the other way around the second half of the game, we all had fun doing it because it was just so hilarious what stories built off of that. And that is, in my opinion, the point where competitiveness while taking it easy can really be fun, because in the end it was really like this good behavior where the enemy team actually said, hey guys, we had a great game. Let's play again sometime. You really defeated us in the back, but you gotta admit, in the first part we were better than you, but we just didn't make it to the finish. And people also agree. It's like, yeah, awesome, good job. Let's just do this again. Which is, in my opinion, a real proof that this works. And to take it even further without trying to talk too long is actually something similar happened, I believe, 1.5 years ago in ranked queue, where actually 1 year ago about, where I decided to start ranking again, which is considered, especially for the lower ranks where I am in, the most cancerous thing you can do, because everyone just wants to win by themselves, and the word teamwork is spelled out of eyes, pretty much. And the thing there was that I played 5 games. Yes, 5 games this day. And the first game I met like this jungler, and since I'm always trying to communicate the best I can and just talk in local chat, also talk to the people to make the game more enjoyable for everyone, this jungler actually joined and they just tried to motivate everyone, even when we were completely losing. And in the end, it was like, hey, I want to play another game. He joined, and that kept going over the next 3 games. We just picked 1 or 2 persons up each time. And in the end, had a full lobby of just people who were super cheerful. We had never met in our entire lives, but in those games, we were all super motivated, even though we pretty much all lost the whole time through. Because we were typing the whole time, I guess. Or because we were just shit jittery, which is also pretty possible. But then this last game, it was really amazing because we actually had a lot of fun, and since we also learned to trust each other based on the fact that we had this communication going on, and that we are not spending time insulting each other or watching others to wait for them to fuck up. We actually had the ability to focus on the game even while it was going downhill and then turn it around in the end, which was one of the most satisfying moments I ever had in League of Legends.
Yeah, but that's how many times out of how many hours you spend playing that game.
Well, it's 500 hours. Those days were like 5.
So let me pen you this. What videos do you see more frequently of things going horribly wrong in League of Legends, or things going incredibly right? And that's not including kill streak montages.
Well, then how about skill guides? Those are a lot like builds. Those are a lot more common, and they usually end in victories.
All right, let me rephrase that. Do you see more videos about things going to the absolute shits in matches, or things being shown in a positive light? So the opposite of trolling or griefing instances.
Well, the thing is, the people who upload the videos are normally the people having fun with the game, while can be said that a good amount of people who either play against them or with them do not.
Because the thing that makes me skeptical about the story you told is that none of you had this vision of grandeur in your minds about taking a MOBA and going to a high competitive scale with it to reap the benefits of fame and or monies.
Yeah, those people are called either assholes or morons.
So the group you were playing with were just playing the game because it is a video game to play. And while yes, we do... What?
I just want to point out that they were actually also doing this motivational thing out of the sole knowledge to win. It's just the point that they realized you need the team to win. I might have displayed that a little wrong, because I did personally play it out of having fun, but the impression I got from the commentary back then was they wanted to win really badly. Even though just not getting triggered at other people. probably ending in crippling depression out of suppression for anger. That was a weird sentence.
Because the one issue is that we've seen in any game that has a competitive angle to it that once people start realizing that they are good or have the illusion or facade that they are good, and that they would be able to then climb the ranks and therefore become famous or infamous for their efforts. And especially with games with any sort of esports capacity that goes to higher scales, that go on to grand stages or whatnot, is that there is the fame and money that then comes with it. And if someone cannot have a 100% success rate to try to climb that ladder to reach said fame and fortune, then yeah, it's a matter of everyone else has brought their chances down of being able to make a living off of being good at playing Draven, for God's sakes.
I know what you're thinking, who you're thinking about. I know who you're thinking about. I can't remember his name, but I know who you're thinking about.
The fuckboy who gets paid by supporters to keep playing this terrible character. Yeah, I said it. Draven is trash. Fight me. ARAM me one-on-one right now.
Oh, that's gonna be so good.
I am not. Sorry, I am not installing League of Legends just to play one-on-one with you. That is nonsense.
Yeah, I would destroy you.
Obliterate.
I would play as Soraka, and you're like, what the hell? How does that even happen?
Not my main. Sorry, let's not go there. Oh god.
Soraka used to be so good.
Yeah, I cry every time. Pretty much that's also a thing you can probably always say in the esports community. This or that has used to be so good, but now... ... This is pretty much a great way to start any esports conversation. Do you think this guy is still relevant? Because honestly...
I think Draven is a pile of trash. Does that count?
Yeah, sure. any drama will do to get more people to your stream. I think so.
So, dialing back here to going back to esports stages, is that excluding a lot of the nonsense that happens behind the scenes with espionage sometimes, is that professional gaming scenes are, for the most part, a healthy environment when on the actual performance side of things. Like, I've read about a handful of nightmare stories from any sort of from Evo, I forgot the name for a moment, for fighting game tournaments, of how these people think they are bloody rock stars when they're playing a Smash, which was developed first and foremost as a party game. But you know, egos aside, is that these are environments that are typically in a structured, supervised environment, and therefore, in some cases, they are the most healthy places to actually play on a competitive level, with or without some sort of compensation promised. When you're in the comfort of your own home, however, since the moderators cannot be paid to give a shit about what goes on, it's fair game for anything to go on. So if someone is an absolute salt monger, I mean, it's not really going to matter because if they go ahead and bring down the entirety of a game just because they're so angry and pissy or whatnot, the usual argument against you is that, oh, you did not play as a team, oh, you were not motivational, oh, we should have banned this person's account years ago, but we decided not to because they could give us more money.
Money! Yeah, that's probably a good point, but on the other hand, if you say the stages and the safe environment, you need to keep in mind that also for the people who play esports, on stage, it's also an incredible burden, because similar to all other sports games, and I think even more so in esports, since they're only more focused on the psychological level, it's a huge emotional and psychological toll that is taken from them. So, in my opinion, that also can be really hard to not just throw the mouse in the crowd and just leave the game at points, because I could picture some people doing that.
Or someone like Daigo ripping off his shirt because, or whatever the hell. I only see some of the Evo moments. I don't know that when's Marvel at.
Yeah, so I think also psychology is a good point there. And as for the thing that you sit at home and moderators can't be paid for half a shit, because pretty much no company can write the contracts, act like you give half a shit about other people's problems. I guess also it's because it's a matter of delusion, because of course most competitive games are designed in a way that you are matched on with people on similar skill cap. I know, it's a good joke. It's a party cracker each time. And the thing is, that creates this constant illusion that pretty much all games run on, that you can beat a challenge. Not realizing, however, that this challenge that you set yourself, like, I want to be the very best, and I can't sing, that you think you are a lot closer to your goal than you actually are. And therefore, in the end, getting angry because you think you could have reached your goal or get a lot closer to it by winning this game, even though you wouldn't have.
So, is a safe equation that I just thought of, is a safe equation in saying that the glory of victory is what drives people to fury, to make competition an unhealthy experience. The glory of victory, and on the opposite side of that, the dismay of defeat, which is something that would make people just turn into horrible villains, because that glory of said victory was not, they weren't able to achieve for this one game out of how many hundreds. Is that a safe equation to go for? That victory is good and defeat is bad is what drives people for the most part?
Yeah, I really think that it gets close, and especially the repetition of it. Because while victory gets more and more dull the more often you have it in consecutively, defeat works the other way around. It becomes starker and starker, and you become more and more annoyed and agitated about this same feeling. So that is, I think, also a part in that it just keeps stacking up if you have if there are any issues with that. So your skin grows thinner in some way.
So we've mainly been talking about how it was player versus player and sheer competition, but for a lot of these games, at least in the mainstream media that gets covered, it's a lot of team-based experiences. So a group of players versus another group of players. And over on Player.me, Andreas brought up the idea on what would be good ways of being able to play cooperative for a single goal, which I think can be translated as how do teams play together in order to achieve victory without making it an absolute cesspool. And my immediate answer is to get rid of the people who turn things into a cesspool, but that can't quite always be the case, since you can have someone who's a really good friend, but at the drop of the hat, they'll start spitting curses when things go wrong. I know I've been guilty of that in Overwatch because, oh my god, Roadhog's hook has been broken since the beta. Jesus Christ. Since the beta, they went to esports events and people made money off his broken hook.
Calm down.
I can't. I'm losing my biscuit.
Okay, that's actually entertaining to see you lose your shit about that. Because then you know how I stopped feeling long ago. Just by giving up.
I have to feel anger. Yeah. It's the only way I can feel alive these days because nothing brings me joy.
Oh, that was edgy. Oh, shit.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so getting back to the question. How to make a good cooperative game work with people? Well, the first step would be to hope, as well as you hope for, as you are to yourself, to be honest about what you can do and communicate with the rest. Yes, communication, this groundbreaking new concept that has only been pretty much since the existence of mankind been supposedly used in the most... I can't talk today, I'm sorry. And yeah, because then you can get a more accurate set of skills. In many games, cooperative games, that's already done for you to a certain level because they are roles. Like, for example, the medic, the heavy, the assault class, the damage dealer, the tanks, the mages, all those kinds of people, where it's just really important to remember that those classes were only designed to give different styles of gameplay, but also in cooperative, they provide you with the knowledge that probably if someone plays something like that in cooperative, there is a good reason to believe that they have done that at least once before. And they know at least a little bit of what they are doing, and therefore having pretty much this basic level of communication going on. At least in the level where there is competition going on, actually.
I mean, on the one hand, you can do things like, do your homework and finding communities of people who, of like-minded folks you'd rather wish to play with. You want to find competitive folks, you want to find people who play casually, people who want to try to find new strategies and things like that. Or a lot more companies could take what League of Legends did with their, unless they have taken this system out, is that you queue for a specific role, and then the matchmaking automatically assembles a team composition around that. So if I were to queue up as a support character, it would then queue me up with a tank, 2 casters, and an assassin type. Which is pretty great because the homework's already done. You queue up as a character, it's to be expected you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you should be playing in AI or custom games to learn the character, for God's sakes. But
yeah, or you just tell the people beforehand that you have no clue what you are doing. You just hope for them to carry you. Which is always the most hilarious response you ever get, is in the point of fuck you, uninstall. Beautiful community, beautiful.
Like beautiful. I think that Call of Duty kind of has, I know this is going to sound crazy, but stick with me here. Call of Duty has kind of a crazy idea in that, they have their campaign, which is how they introduce a lot of their new mechanics, their systems, and they tell a story that is absolutely garbage. But it's the matter of the campaigns in these games are the means of introducing yourself to these mechanics, to these systems that you can already have a grasp of and know about when you jump into the multiplayer. There's a lot of people who just buy the Call of Duty games and jump right into the multiplayer, and they'll be kind of lost in the beginning, even if they have previous game experience under their belt. But someone like me who would go through the campaign first and then the multiplayer, well, I would have something of an advantage because there's something to be said when it comes to player knowledge in a game. Like, I'd rather have somebody knowledgeable about the game or the character or role they're playing as versus an expert player who's jumping in for the first time.
Yeah. I would personally really agree on that. But honestly, I would not care because as long as I could have fun with them because they are nice people. Okay, but let's get back to the question. So the first step is to communicate what you are good at and how you would like to play the game with others. Also think there of Payday, which are we going to go stealth or completely batshit bonkers? That's all. That would be probably a good example from communicate beforehand what is going to happen. And then I guess during the game, it's also a matter of letting each coordinating the different tasks. In the point when there are classes around, that's already clear. On the other hand, it is important that there is clear what the person is expected to do. For example, in League of Legends, it is always expected unwrittenly by the support to provide vision and sometimes jungle. But on the same at the same time, if those roles would not exist, it would need some kind of specification. It's like, hey, I'm going to take care of vision, no problem. I can handle this. And then someone else could go, okay, if you provide vision, then I have more available time and energy. So I could, for example, roam more and try to get the game forward in our advantage. And get that kind of emotion going on. Because if you expect one person to do too many things, they will inevitably fail and therefore disappoint. And also, you need to watch out something that I chronically do to overload your own tasks, because as I phrased myself beautifully yesterday, I already have 30 hours per day of work, so I sadly cannot take your offer.
Well, the point I was trying to make earlier was that the more competitive and complicated a game when it wants to bring teams together to compete against one another, the more tools and resources must be available for said players to learn about what they're doing. I mean, it's a lot like with Dota 2 in its early days of becoming a public tool, in that they had a tutorial that taught you how to buy items and control your character and how last hitting worked, but it didn't tell you about the different camps on the maps, what items are beneficial to each of the different characters, what roles are specific, the timing of where these roles should be during events of a match. When you should be in lane or when you should be preparing to set up a gank. And these are a lot of things that players would be torn asunder over by other players for not knowing, when supposedly this is common knowledge. It's only common knowledge when a bunch of people have learned about it through a trial by fire or read about it. When some casual is jumping into a game for a first time, they're not going to know anything about this because nobody, nor the game, is teaching them about it. So that's another step in that when all the players involved know what they're doing, it's a lot more tolerable if someone were to make a mistake because, well, they just had a misplay or an unfortunate mistake happens, but they still know what they're doing and they'd be able to perform accordingly if the stars align just right.
Yeah, let me point out, there is a reason why the word casual scrub exists, or the phrase. And the other thing is, that is knowledge that is typically both generated and taught by the community. And that's really tricky because, honestly, while the game provides the basic mechanics, what the community does with it in the end is completely out of control of the developers in points. For for example, when the first person, like imagine, I believe in Smite, or I think also in Heroes of the Storm, it's sometimes the case that you do not have a dedicated jungler. You have people on lanes and that's it. And they go sometimes to camps. So there gotta be a person in the beginning who first thought, hey, let's just send a person in the jungle permanently to get all sorts of good buffs out of there and just get all the more XP from lane. And then this is something that evolved in the MOBA strategy hive mind, pretty much, to be used. So in that concept, the systems like when to gank, how to ward is something entirely made by the community, and therefore developers could not provide the tools for that at points. And it is important for the community to teach that. The tricky thing there is that apparently a good chunk of the community has no clue the difference between when it is competitive and when not. And I think that's the real issue for many MOBAs. Because I know in pretty much every game I can think of, I think even in Counter-Strike, though I cannot remember that well, there is pretty much some kind of AI mode normally. There is pretty much always a casual mode, and then there's a competitive mode. But what I've experienced personally is that people in the casual mode still expect the same things in the competitive mode and going with the same mindset on there, which is unreasonable. And therefore creating a bad mood, and people, especially new people, are not able to learn since they are never told what they are supposed to do, and can never observe it since they get hated to oblivion. But though I gotta say, it got better, at least for League of Legends in my experience in the last 2 years or 3 years that I've been playing. And yeah, I guess it takes time for the community in some point, but seriously, the part that you just mentioned is it's a matter of the community not being able to separate when it's competitive and when it's not.
Yeah, it's certainly easy enough for somebody to take a few minutes to Google up guides or whatnot. Whether or not they are well written or correct is something else entirely. But it then kind of runs into an issue as well, is that it only becomes popular opinion that matters, whether or not it is correct or otherwise. Like, if a game will not explicitly give you a compendium, like in Civilization, of everything involved for you to read about, you would have to go do your homework on your own time. So, if I were to do up a guide explaining the basics of killing Floor 2 after all my time in it, and how to, start off on the normal difficulty and how to contribute to the team effectively, well, my opinion wouldn't really matter, because there's going to be other guides with thousands of views being pushed because, well, this guy has a higher view count, therefore he must be correct. When really, it then just comes down to raw bias and opinion, in that, like, I think I read one insane guide one time where a character in Heroes of the Storm that is supposed to be a tank is actually supposed to be a dedicated jungler, just Blizzard messed up on the role assignment. And I think this was like, a year or something ago. I can't remember the finer details of it, but once this guide got pushed out, this character was played incorrectly in a whole bunch of games, I noticed. So in that way, there would have to be moderation of what guides are allowed and pushed through if the developers decide to have their own tools. But when things are when the meta is left up to interpretation, that's just another can of worms on its own right.
Yeah, but still, it is rarely in the power of the developers to change the meta consciously without fucking up. Because honestly, there are actually people working there, and people make mistakes, especially the people working there, as we can all agree. As if you're working for a MOBA, you are bound to make so many mistakes. You would have get burned alive on a meeting sometime. That's actually quite an interesting picture to see employees from Riot or Blizzard be burned alive at the stake for their decisions. That'll be interesting, at least, to see.
Well,
but at least we don't live in a primal tribal society yet, so I doubt that's going to happen.
I would not mind seeing somebody from Blizzard being set ablaze for letting Roadhook's hog be broken this long.
I love people raging.
I hate video games.
Yeah, why are we even doing this?
What the hell if I know?
You track me every week. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I just still want to point out that while the meta is left open to interpretation in many cases, the sheep herd mechanism will still mostly lead to the fact that games are somewhat fair because, well, at least in most cases, of course, because let's say if there is one guide for one server in a specific game who has millions of views, where you can assume that at least each player read it once there, even though it's improbable that this happens, you can assume that everybody has the same knowledge. And even though it might be wrong, all people would still assume the same thing and therefore be able to fight on the same level. So, in other words, that even if guides are bad and might ruin some people's ability to play, it is important to remember that there are a lot of people being that stupid, so you can't really blame them. Even though many people do, I know.
The immediate thing I can think of is with Hearthstone and how winners are not created by, experimenting or trying out new things. If you want to win, you net deck like a chump. And which is kind of a shame considering how, a game developed with so many cards in mind is now just based on a deck or two for each of the different classes, and god damn you to the nines if you try to deviate from that even once.
You will burn in purgatory and for eternity.
You'll activate a trap card straight to hell, you gosh darn dingus.
Pretty much, yeah. So, yeah, I guess, especially for competitive games, it's really closely tied to the community, whether it's toxic or not. Because also, another game with, let's say, another thing that has been debated quite fiercely is voice chats in competitive games.
Yep.
Because, let's be honest, competitive games, if you are a team, you will voice chat eventually. And with randoms, not always necessarily, since there are language boundaries, etc. But if you play with at least one premade, no matter if you ever talked to him before, you will talk for this game. Even if you're mute, you will at least join voice chat. Yeah, I've been there. And still, that is the important part. This makes sense as a development to add voice chat to competitive games, therefore. But on the other hand, do you want to really hear the voices of potential prepubescents yelling at you because you apparently made a mistake they wouldn't have made in the same position as you?
Or playing Rickroll or Toho music incessantly at a volume louder than a whale cry.
Not only out of volume, also with a lot of static. Never forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would have people that sound considerably worse than me and with considerably worse skills in the language, which does always make sense to not do at all because it is completely retarded. So I'm trying to remember, I think I read an article about some game implementing a pre-made voice chat. So everybody who is pre-made in a lobby would automatically get voice chat, but not with the rest of the team, which makes incredible sense and makes you wonder why has this never been implemented before or thought of before, because that is a sensible solution to the problem. On the other hand, would of course limit you to inviting people you know unless they mute themselves or something. But that is a totally different story who people pre-made themselves with. I mean, hey, can go half around the world and it's still fun to play. Or it's completely toxic to play because you invited the wrong person, and that's just some hate statue you keep in your friend list to yell at him. I am sad.
So, it seems like the only good solution to this whole issue is to never ever queue with randos at any time. It would all have to be a matter of finding people you know that would be good, or you've played with before and know would be good, or that have all the knowledge about what they're doing. Because it seems like once you add complete strangers to the equation, that's when things can just go tits up and you don't have a say in the matter.
Yeah, that is a good point. Well, there are actually points where it is possible to do that, and randoms come nice. It's sadly still the minority, in my opinion. Just today, I had again this game where the people were super nice in the beginning, but within minutes, and then later on, they started loathing each other for reasons that I will never comprehend. And yeah, that's just what happens sometimes. Even though I believe that voice chat would solve some of those issues, since it is a lot harder to get mad at someone when you talk to him because he has some kinds of existence to you besides text. You're more attached to a person. Like if you stand in front of a person, you would not say the same things when you never met him before and would just write to him.
Yeah.
And they're pissed off. And I think that might be a level of moderation that might even help some competitive games with adding voice chat, though that is a social experiment that I doubt any company is willing to try out.
Like, I still think that, even if this would mean that their revenue gets cut because of it, is that if these companies and devs want to claim that they want to have a healthy, friendly environment for their players, they have to start banning people left and right, or putting them on putting their accounts on probation, at least, for the bullshit that they will do every chance they get a hold of. Like, I know Killing Floors 2's developers said that if they find people being shit turds in their game, they just get the boot for good. But I haven't been able to pull up any real succinct, hard data about them going through with that. Riot has their whole tribunal system, which, I mean, if it was such a big, scary thing, people wouldn't be doing that stuff in the first place. But every time I played, 9 out of 10 times, I was red in the face and ready to shit my pants.
Well, you just said you want to reinstall, right?
No.
I kind of want to prove you. Just to ruin your next week.
You just want me to record it of me cursing and screaming to the high heavens, and you just yucking it up the whole time.
Yeah, that's one part, and the other part, we are doing that right now.
No, we're not.
Bro talk soak.
I will beat you with sticks, and by sticks I mean a pipe.
Pipe.
That's not a euphemism.
Oh,
Shut up.
I actually just got what you said. Like, I didn't even realize. I was just confused where the pipe idea came from.
Stick with me, kid. I'll keep you in diamonds.
What the hell is this? Okay, so voice chat. And actually, one last thing I think we can do, because the legendary Q&A section should probably maybe come up if I look at the clock, is 2 years ago when I first went to Gamescom. Well, it was, I think, sometime after Evolve was released, that cooperative 4v1 gameplay of Valve, which is now free to play, I believe, actually, which I might try out someday.
Evolve Stage 2, yes.
Yeah, and the gist there was 4 people who sign up there on the booth get to play against a pro player of Evolve. He plays the monster, you try to take that monster down. And there was actually, of course it was 18 plus, and you would be able to win, I believe, up to 10,000 euros if you did that. Which is, you should have seen the crowd there, I tell you. As soon as anyone mentioned the 10,000. That was really, really amazing. And actually, I signed up with my friends, and we didn't get to play because, sadly, around 5 minutes before it was our turn, they realized that one of them wasn't 18. Shit.
Rip.
Too bad. They could have just given me all the money, and I just secretly redistributed it to the happiness of the financial ministries. Financial, whatever, you know what I mean. And yeah, that was actually a really, really interesting concept, because especially on conventions, in my opinion, even if the people just met, there is some amazing teamwork going on, because you are literally sitting next to each other, and similar to LAN, you will probably only yell at them because either it's in joke or you are incredibly drunk, or both. And that led to the fact that there was actually even people who signed up and were randoms pretty much, because they just met each other on Gamescom, who were all there single and were like, I want to win that money. And then just searched the other people joining this group and like, okay, we're going to do this now. And there was actually some amazing synergy going on between them, even though I've never played the game. And never did that, because what I mentioned a couple minutes earlier with voice chat, they were in their faces and they would not offend each other on that manner, no matter how they would normally act in a game.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of the mask of anonymity when it comes to the internet that would make anyone a vilified monster if they feel like it, and they would get away with it.
Yeah.
But in real life, it's the issue that there are people who see you. You could get in trouble for the shit you spit. So that would dial back a lot of people. Not all, but a lot of people who would act like a complete doofus. Just because that there would be other people around to call them out on their actions and potentially take action against them for it.
Mm-hmm. And also, I remember the last 2 years in Gamescom, which is why I also have connections, like somewhat loose connections to Greybox and the Jaeger, the developers of Dreadnought, which is also some sort of MOBA, which is based on Unreal Engine 4 and works with spaceships. And I gotta say, it's actually really fun to play if you have friends. Where I was, which was just in 15. It was like a really small booth, and no one went there until they started distributing these flickering keychains, which was a big seller, because considering the Gamescom is like half lit only, and you would see those all over the place, people would go there a lot because it's just those they just looked so awesome. And back then, I also just went with one friend, even though we were like 4 people, because we were like, yeah, we want to get those bands, and the other 2 already have them. And then they were asking, and then we played with a team of 5 because it's also a 5 versus 5. And those 2 other people were like, hey, we are 2 people too. We really like the game, and you were not assholes by playing, as in abandoning the rest of the team and just going in all alone, which is also a way of not really working with the team in many cases, which apparently happened there quite often in the beginning because people had no clue what was going on in the game. And so we went again, and then also had quite a good friendship build up with them over the last 2 years, and also then with the Greybox developers, because they were also joining this competition, which was, in my opinion, if you ever have a chance, even if you ever watch this, if you ever get a chance to play against a developer of any game, do it, because it's a lot of fun already, because they have the clue what they are supposed to do, but since they're developers and not players, they have a good percentage of error in that behavior, even if they test it, which is always making it interesting, especially if you get so good at the game during the Gamescom that you crush them 100-0. Was great time.
If there's
Great
any game
times.
devs who want me to cover their game, they hit me up. Since I can't go to theirs,
Yeah, right. I was going to write into Tuxedo about that. Sorry, forgot about that.
because I can't go to these events because A, my spot on the column refuses to cooperate, and B, those plane tickets be expensive.
Oh yeah. Oh. Yeah, I remember telling you last time the prices of the average flight, which is also kind of the reason why I'm not attending any events in foreign countries normally. Unless I am thinking about going to Insomnia this summer. Summer. But other than that, yeah, no. I am not going to pay for flights to the US for a convention. Even though I won tickets to TwitchCon, and I couldn't go because I didn't have the money for the flights, and I didn't get free time from my job. I cry every time. But yeah, enough from my anecdotes. Do you have still anything to mention about esports and how competitive gameplay ruins or improves the game?
Oh yeah.
Well, the hyper positive solution would be to that both sides in the matter, at least when it comes to anything other than ranked modes, that both sides get damn near equal amounts of rewards. So in Overwatch, in Quick Match, both sides would get one side would get 100% of the usual rewards, while the other side would get like 90% of the reward in terms of experience, or like a similar thing in MOBAs where the in-game currency, both sides gain a near equal amount so that they can still buy runes or characters or whatever they wish. Just so the sting of loss also means it's not a sting of their in-game currency bank account not climbing as high because of it. Then this does lead into the issue of Splatoon, where people will just join a game and idle, and they'd get paid out for it all the same. At least with Heroes of the Storm, they have a pretty mean AFK system where if it detects you're away longer than you need to go get a drink of water or go for a quick bathroom break, it'll boot you out every time and replace that person with an AI bot that likely is better than that player in the first place anyway.
Oh, yeah, I also remember in League, if you stay long enough, you will get kicked out and disconnect, and then you will get a calling punishment, as well as a loss for the whole game if you stay there in the game, even though the game might have been won for your team. But if you mention also in-game currencies, I just remembered a game which I early accessed some time ago. I honestly can't remember what time ago, which is not competitive, even though I think it was planned to be, which is called Minimum. I doubt that you heard about it because it's kind of small, but the gist is pretty much imagine everything made out of brightly colored cardboard boxes and cell shaded.
Okay.
Like the character themselves, all those collectibles, the whole map, and pretty much what the game ended up to be is like you have this basic weapon and the basic melee weapon normally, as well as a grenade. If you farm up enough material, if you kill an enemy player, you will get an orb from them and you will level up this weapon up to level 5. Which will, by the way, looked awesome all the time because, for example, in the beginning you had a katana. Level 2, the katana turned into fire, then the fire turned into blue fire, then you got 2 katanas with red fire, and then 2 katanas with blue fire, which looked completely amazing and was completely adrenaline junkie because by that point, any player just went to melee range immediately because, honestly, if you have the chance in a shooter pretty much to run around with blue glowing katanas to slice people up, it's just amazing. But at the same time, due to that feeling of this complete pump of adrenaline you would get from that, you would completely lose focus of the game. Because there are several game modes of, for example, build a Titan and then those Titans fight in the middle. The Titans were I controlled and would need to reach the other side of the map. I'm trying to remember. For example, in Heroes of the Storm, there's this one map of, I think it was Azael or something, where they would fight in the middle. Similar to that. Like
yeah.
AIs that would fight for you and you can buff them pretty much.
Yeah, the Battlefield of Eternity, I think you're talking about. It's these two generals where you had to whittle down the health of the other while defending your own general.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. So that was pretty much the same system there. I think it was Titan mode, called Titan mode. And what would happen is that there were at least, you could count on at least half your team going off in random directions, just slicing up people for no apparent reason or just doing things around the map without focusing on the fact that they would, for example, need to level up their own Titan or kill the enemy Titan once it's out. Which it was fun to play, I cannot admit that, and it was not bothersome because it wasn't competitive. But at the same time, this pumping of adrenaline you would get from doing really good in the game would take you sometimes completely out of the goals of the actual game session, which I think can also be translated to many competitive games, because if a person does incredibly well, he quickly overestimates himself. And also will just go off alone, not work with the team anymore because he thinks, hey, I am the team. You got me, guys. Sorry. Yeah, but Grace can't have a goddamn cigar. Just get the memes out there. Sorry.
Who said you could allow memes into this holy household?
I did.
I will.
No. We correct. D-Squad did. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, because they're going to come here en masse.
Yeah, that just points this out for all viewers who are not on player.me. D-Squad is a small community founded by people whose names start with D, out of the fact that we were bored on Discord one evening, which is an entirely good reason to do something like that.
And the future refused to change.
Yeah, and you still do not come, and I am really sad about that.
Yeah, because you're missing out on all my hot jokes. Oh wait, which ones? Don't you take time to think about it, because you know there aren't any.
Yeah. So let's just keep moving, try to get back on topic here again, because I know we are both from derail.me, but hey, I still believe in our ability to focus our ADD for at least the last part, which would be the Q&A session. And we did answer questions today. Just point this out here. We did have a suggestion and a question today, and we answered it somewhat. I hope to satisfaction.
It was a suggestion. None of them were questions. You are getting a bit too hype of yourself currently.
Stay motivated. Hey, something happened today. Problem is, do we still have questions for Q&A left now?
Nope.
What a disappointment. That took me right in the chest.
Right in your undergarments, you prepubescent girl. Oh.
No, the black hole that once was my heart.
You prepubescent girl? Question mark?
Yeah, obviously. Don't you hear that in my voice? Yeah. I am terrible at this.
So is that high time for this to be rounded up?
I guess so, since I don't think there's any more to talk. Oh yeah, the only thing we can mention is, do we still have suggestion stuff left to do for the next episode that we can spoil?
Well, I was wanting to discuss early Ninja and how it is a parasitic pile of garbage that's supposed to be a quote-unquote solution for the issues of early access. But by the time we get to any of that today, we're going to be well past 2 hours.
Yeah, so maybe we do that next time then, or we just come up with something a lot more interesting, or if you have the time before next week, which would be the first week of Sunday of February, if I'm correct, then you actually have this once in a lifetime possibility to drop a suggestion on YouTube, on his Twitter, on anything else where you see our names, because honestly, both our names are not extremely common.
But they're so full of swag, though.
Yeah, much swag, very wow. Sorry. All the memes. It's.
God damn it, Deathly. Well.
Yeah, okay, so you can wrap up now. I allow you.
That will do us for another week as we finish our Faffin boot. As you may or may not, or likely not even give a damn to know about, we do this every Sunday at about 9 to 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, AM. Just go ahead and do your conversion to find out what time that would be on your end. We do this over at Twitch, Beam, and YouTube live streaming, if the bloody thing would ever work on time. And you can find me there at all the same usernames. So you can follow me there to get email notifications of the next time we go live or any other random-ass stream I boot up. You can also follow me on Twitter to find out when the show goes live, or to find me cursing and yelling about political nonsense. And you can find Deathly Mad over at player.me by the same name. And then...
Or you ask really nice and I tell you where else I am, but yeah, player is good start. Or just annoy Dino until he tells you.
Yeah, that too. And also send us potential show topics and questions that we can actually answer at the end of the goddamn Q&A session for once, and contribute to Patreon today. Kappa, kappa, kappa.